A sick psychopath hunts only the most vulnerable women.
We're talking about 14, 15, 16-year-olds. It's really sad.
They don't have that gut reaction. That danger is around them.
While the victim count soars,
He just liked killing people. That was his job.
investigators work tirelessly to stop the sadistic serial killer.
All of us were working way more than 8 hours a day trying to figure out who this person was and developing leads. It just was physically impossible for any one agency to try to investigate 10,000 tips.
And the only way to catch him may be to confront and confide in another serial killer.
He's a cold-blooded, psychopathic murderer, and his only motivation is what's in it for him.
The story that inspired many terrifying films, like The Silence of the Lambs. This is Green River Killer, hunting the monster. On his day off, a man takes his raft to a picturesque local waterway, where he searches the mud for antique bottles and relics.
And he's actually taken his pastime and turned it into something kind of lucrative. Some old medicine bottles that were once trash are now treasure worth up to $100.
As he drifts around the bend, he sees a man standing on the shore.
He assumes he's fishing, so he calls out, "Hey, did you catch anything?" And the man says, "No, find anything." The man on the riverbank points to an old engine and says, "That might be something of value. Maybe you should go check that out." So as the man in the raft heads in that direction, he turns around and sees this man walking up the riverbank. The man in the raft doesn't know it yet, but he may have just spoken to one of America's most prolific serial killers.
He drifts further into the shallows and leans over his raft. And he comes face to face with a woman under the water.
It looks like a mannequin, so he goes to investigate. As he takes his hook and he's trying to kind of latch onto this mannequin, he realizes it's not moving, it's beneath a rock.
As he moves closer, he bumps into a second body.
What he sees horrifies him. These are no mannequins. These are women. It's surreal, it's shocking, it's absolutely horrifying. He races to the river's edge, climbs up the same bank that that man was on. He flags down traffic, hoping somebody will call police immediately. And while he's sitting there waiting, he wonders, did that man point that engine out to me to try to deflect me from going to where these women were?
Investigators arrive at the Green River. They're stunned by the sight of the two submerged women's bodies. Both are nude, both weighed down by heavy rocks.
The rocks were large. It was just amazing that somebody could wrestle those rocks on top of the bodies. It's really quite something, particularly waist deep in water.
The women in the river are identified as 17-year-old Cynthia Hines, 31-year-old Marsha Chapman, then known prostitutes. Both were strangled and likely dead before their killer weighed them down with boulders. But that's not all. The killer placed pyramid-shaped rocks inside of them.
Inside the women were about 3-inch-sized rocks, vaginally inserted. What the hell is this? Is it some kind of weird religious cultish thing? You know, nobody knows what this means. Nobody's ever seen anything like this.
Then, as newly promoted homicide detective Dave Reichart searches the river's edge, looking for the killer's path through the grass, he stumbles on a third body.
He looks down, and to his horror, he realizes there's another body right here beneath my feet. he calls out to everyone else, "Hey, I've got another one." The grass around this entire river is so high, there could be bodies everywhere. They have no idea.
The third victim is identified as 16-year-old Opal Mills. She's been strangled with her own pants. Reviewing the evidence, investigators realize they've seen this before, twice. A month earlier in July, a 16-year-old runaway named Wendy Caulfield was found floating face down in the same river. The killer also strangled Wendy with her own pants.
And she's one of those poor souls who was just born into a situation where she's doomed from the start. Her mom was a teen mom. Her family was a bunch of alcoholics. She ran away from home, and eventually she got into the wrong car.
And just a week earlier, 23-year-old Deborah Bonner was also discovered dead near the Green River.
At that point, you had 5 victims, all young women, within a very short distance of each other. And I think it was pretty clear at that point that there was a serial killer.
A victim profile begins to emerge. All 5 women are young, suspected of prostitution, and all were known to frequent the Strip, a stretch of road between Tacoma and Seattle, known for its seedy nightlife.
Pacific Highway South was kind of a sleazy area. It's an area that borders the Seattle-Tacoma International Airport.
You would see open acts of prostitution, women who were standing, flagging down cars, lots of cars stopping, people getting in and out. It was pretty notorious for the prostitution at that point, and there were just so many people that flocked there, women as well as men, looking to have sexual favors.
Many of the young girls who worked the streets were victimized early in their lives by either a family member or someone close to the family.
A lot of them didn't have fathers, and they had abusive, controlling boyfriends that put them out on the street. And so they were all troubled in some way.
Vulnerable and scared, teen runaways often find refuge in men who offer them protection and a place to stay. But these men aren't boyfriends. They're pimps on the prowl for at-risk girls.
It's really sad. And what's even more grotesque is that there's a market for that.
Here, girls as young as 14 walk the streets, hoping to catch the attention of Johns. If a man likes what he sees, he pulls over. Sometimes the girl directs him to a nearby motel room. Other times, the girl gets into the vehicle for a potentially dangerous car date.
Sick tricks are men who rape and abuse prostitutes. They may beat them up, they may choke them, or abuse them in some other way. The girls quickly learn that this is just part of the job. They can't go to the police oftentimes about these types of Johns because who's going to believe them? It's their word against this particular person, and many people just have this horrible idea that who can rape a prostitute. The sick tricks themselves enjoy the violence. They enjoy abusing the young people. It's a power trip for them. They enjoy being able to bully these types of people.
With 5 bodies found around the Green River, investigators dig deeper into the killer's likely profile. He may be a demented John, a vengeful pimp, a social worker who gains the women's trust, or even a vice cop. Whoever he is, he's brutally killing at a furious rate. He's turning the Green River into his private graveyard and shows no signs of slowing down. Major Richard Kraske of King County, Washington, has lived this nightmare before.